The year is still 1993, and we have Bomberman 94, so called because it was released in 93 in Japan. Kinda like how Bomberman 93 was released in 92, although the North American release was in 93, but I guess that made too much sense. They must have learned their lesson from that one, and when Bomberman 94 was released internationally in 94, they retitled it Mega Bomberman. Okay, the retitle was probably because Bomberman 94 was for the PC Engine, which as we know didn't sell well overseas, so they ported it to the Sega Mega Drive, also known as the Sega Genesis, for the international market. Most notable changes between the versions are the graphics. They're a lot darker here in the first area, and a lot of things are less detailed. And the music, running mostly the same MIDI tracks but with a different sound set. They even came up with 2 different original tracks for the first 2 worlds in the Sega version. But enough of that, you're probably wondering what these adorable little fluffy kangaroo rabbit things are that Bomberman is riding. Well, Yoshis were introduced to Mario in 1990, and Hudson figured Bomberman needed something similar, so here we have Louis, or Ruiz, or... usually Louis in English, so that's what I'll go with. Much like Yoshis, and Bombermen for that matter, Louis, plural Louis, can refer to the species as a whole, or to one specific one if that's the only Louis that appears in that game, usually the green one. But name shenanigans aside, they function as a sort of item. Like Yoshis, you find them in eggs. Collect one and you can ride around on it. Each colored Louis has its own special ability you can use while riding it. The green one can dash, blue can kick bombs, much like the Bomb Punch did in Super Bomberman. That power-up doesn't appear here. Yellow can kick soft blocks around, purple can jump over them, and pink can... dance. Oh, and they can take a hit for you, functioning much like a heart. Our story involves an entirely new villain and his robot army invading Planet Bomber. This is the first time we have Planet Bomber instead of Earth, though it still looks like Earth. Maybe after pretty much the entire population was bombers, they decided to rename the planet? Anyway, Planet Bomber is protected by 5 spirits, but the bad guy shattered the spirit pictures, the source of the 5 spirits' power, thus splitting the planet into 5 pizza slices. So it's up to Bomberman to restore the spirit pictures and put the planet back together again. Wow, the music is pretty upbeat for such an apocalyptic event. You know, the North American and PAL versions further specified that animals on the planet were brainwashed into joining the invaders. Is there maybe a way to save these little buddies here? I guess not. It can't be helped. Oh well, better blow them to pieces. Our goal here isn't to defeat all the enemies, but to destroy these nodes here so we can collect the picture piece. Oh, that means the bunnies didn't have to die? Oh well, too late now. Levels are much longer and more elaborate. They have implied higher and lower planes, bridges, and some levels consist of multiple rooms. We can actually go back to previous areas and levels we've already completed. Though once we've collected the final piece of the picture, we're forced into the boss fight. The first one being this monkey and a giant monster banana. Upon defeat, the monkey does this. After beating the first area, we see the villain punching the other 4 bombers, leaving them injured. So why are there 4 more bombers here? Was it originally a team of 5 that split up to the different areas, but then 4 of them got beat, so White had to restore the areas they were going to save? The story only mentions White bombers, so what is up with these other 4? That odd scene was removed from Mega Bomberman. The second world introduces us to minecarts and these volcanoes that shoot falling rocks occasionally. boss has different music than the others, and it's unique to him for some reason. We then find ourselves in the underwater world. Man, how could there be so many cans here? Has pollution gotten this bad? Our boss is a bubble-spitting crab. Just one, though. But when we beat him, it reveals another bubble-spitting crab. And here we are in a spooky house. This is the first time we see some light gimmicks where we can only see what's close by. Also, these birds with giant eyeballs, and it all amounts to this bat dude. World 5 is an ice world where we get cheered on by penguins, and they shoot rockets at us. Thanks a lot. Also, we find a bunch of igloos we can hide bombs under, causing the tops of them to get flung. Wonder if that will be a returning gimmick. And here is a random ice princess lady. And with that, we've restored the spirit pictures and can put the pizza slices back together. But there's still that villain to deal with, isn't there? So we board his ship for one last really long level with steam blowing blocks that can stun you and these one-way gear setups that fling you in one direction. Also these skull blocks that explode like bombs. The music for this level is actually a reoccurring theme in Bomberman that first appears here. And finally, we face this fuzzy guy. I've been putting off talking about him and mentioning his name for long enough. This is the first appearance of the #1 reoccurring villain of the Bomberman franchise. He would see a few different designs, but would mostly look like this. I think he looks like a blue Lorax. Blorax? But no, his name is not Blorax. His name is... it's complicated. At least in English. In Japanese, it's pretty simple. Bagura. The first part, bagu, is actually a loan word from English. Bug, as in computer bug. As such, this name isn't unique to him. There's a Digimon called Baguramon, localized as Bagramon in English. Now, let's face it, Bagura doesn't make much sense in English, so you might want to modify it or change it entirely to, I don't know, Dr. Evilface or something. I'm not entirely against changing names to something that makes more sense in that language, but they didn't go this route here. So, if you were an English localization team tasked with writing Bagura in English, would you localize it as Bagula, Buglier, Buglar, Bugler? Bugler, by the way, is a word in English. It means a person who plays the bugle, like this guy.
Not that one.
Bugler with 2 G's, Buglar with 2 G's, Burglar, Bagular, Bagalard, Boogaloo, Boogerbra, or all of the above. If you chose all of the above, well then you'd be wrong because I made up those last 3 ones, but all of these other ones have been used as localizations for this guy's name. I mean, geez guys, I get there might be different teams for different games, but this is just overkill. What am I supposed to call this guy now? Apparently the most consistent, or least inconsistent, one of these is Bugler with 2 G's, but I think I'm just gonna stick to Bagura even if it doesn't make much sense in English. Or occasionally use any of the other ones. Just know that they all refer to the same character and this is just a localization flub. I mean, come on, let's try and be consistent here. This is Bomberman after all. Oh, wait. Okay, with all that out of the way, we can see that Bagula, as he's called in this particular localization, has an antenna ball. First he floats around with laser shooting things. After that he boards this dragon mech thing. Hey, I wrecked your mech. What now, Bagura? Oh, a bomb? Okay, now we can see the antenna a lot better. Is he also a Bomberman? Seeing how he explodes and smokes when we beat him, he might very well be at least partially a robot. Normally, Bomberman just flies away, but if we beat the final boss while still riding a Louie, we get this scene. I'm really not sure why he stays behind. He isn't needed there. Barbara's ship blows up just fine without him, and it looked like there was room for him in the ship, so why is he staying here? Perhaps we'll never know. As Barbara is thrown out of the ship and the other bombers on the planet celebrate, our credits roll, with enemies, Louis, and bosses dancing in the background. Even Barbara gets to join. The end. Multiplayer has seen a change. We can now choose different characters that appear in each of the player colors. The localized names are Bomber Lady, who is in fact our first official female bomber, Kamikaze Bomber, Grandpa Bomber, Big Bomber, Tiny Bomber, Bookworm, Bond Saver, and Construction Bomber. As the Sega Genesis only goes up to 4 players, we only got 4 players in Mega Bomberman as opposed to 5 in Bomberman 94. We can also put players in 2 different teams for the first time. Of course, we have a bunch of stage gimmicks from the campaign in the battle stages, and Louis can appear. There's a strategy that's been around since the heart item appeared. If you know you can survive a hit and your opponent can't, you can go for a suicide attack that's more sure to hit them while you just take that hit and survive. Here, this is also possible with a Louie, so even the sacrificing of the mount from Mario's Yoshi carries over here. The different characters don't function differently when played, but as AI opponents, they will use different strategies, being more aggressive or more defensive, but I wouldn't know that. The only acceptable way to play this is with all 5 big bombers. I mean, just look at this. It's beautiful. This should be a send this to your crush without context video. And that just about covers 94 and thus the year 1993. We now have our Louis, Planet Bomber, and our main reoccurring villain, but we still have the bulk of the 90s to get through.